welcome to the Swedish Junior Hockey Podcast. Jacob Dahlin, I'm your host, and today, very, very special guest. We're going to take us back to a moment 8 years ago, but Brock Montpetit from Somerset, Wisconsin. Welcome to the podcast.
Yeah, great to be here. Appreciate you reaching out, and happy to relive my glory days.
Yeah. So tell everybody where you're sitting today, because we always have like this geographical moment. So where are you today?
I'm at home, so Somerset, Wisconsin, Northwest Wisconsin, Midwest United States. Sitting in my office. So honestly, my kids might run in here sometime during this if they need something, but you'll get to meet them if they do.
All right. And I looked you up I didn't look up you, but I looked up Somerset on Google Earth or Google Maps and was kind of surprised how close it is to Minneapolis.
Yeah, growing up, kind of, I guess, where my hockey got started, Wisconsin isn't really known for their hockey, especially in Minnesota.
Yeah.
But yeah, growing up right on the border of Minnesota, I probably played 75% of my hockey in Minnesota, playing against Minnesota teams and like summer travel teams. I'd always be on a Minnesota team.
Yeah. Well, what I thought we'd do to get it kicked off, I'm going to see if I can share my screen here and see if I can bring up, and I get your reactions here. Let's see if this works. Does it pop up?
Working on my end.
Let's see if the audio comes on.
Brock Montpetit skjuter Leksand till SHL! Och säsongen som Leksands IF gör, det är helt makalöst!
Ja, jag saknar ord. Vilken fantastisk match som de gjort. Att komma tillbaka, de är i SHL.
What goes through your mind?
I still get chills watching that, to be honest with you. It's fun. It was funny, actually. Somebody on my Instagram liked that old video that I shared from 7 years ago today. So I watched it a couple times today, actually. So might have wore off a little bit when I watched it this time, because I just did a couple hours ago. But no, it's awesome. It's a really fun memory. And just the funny thing is, when I scored it, I don't think I realized what it meant for Leksand. I mean, me being a North American, and the relegation thing was somewhat newer to me. I was in my second year, so I knew about it, but after the fact, just talking to everybody and the fans and the upper office management of Leksand, just how crazy it was. It's like it's incredible.
Well, and there's been some goals like that. That was the first time that they went up, and then they went up a second time again after that, I believe. And the second time was equally fun, but maybe not as dramatic. And so let's frame that. Let's put this in context. So the year that was 2016, right?
Yes.
15-16 season. Leksand had been down. For those who don't know, let me back up a little bit. Leksand, where I grew up, and we've in this podcast, what's this got to do with Swedish Junior Hockey Podcast? Well, it has more to do with Leksand, where I'm from, and since I'm kind of running this podcast, it's a major thing. But Leksand have been down in the Allsvenskan, which is the second division of Swedish elite hockey. And in the beginning of the year, we're in what position of the series?
In the beginning, I think halfway through the season,
halfway.
We were last place.
Yeah,
and fired every coach we had. The GM, got rid of 5-6 guys on the team, and I didn't know what the heck was going on. To be honest with you, I was like, oh man, this is just going to be let's just get through the rest of the year and we'll figure out like what's going on. But
yeah. So, and they went from dead last, which Lexon's always been a top, not a top team, but in the SHL or Elite Series, and then had been relegated down, struggled, and then and come in and are dead last, and then go on this crazy run, and then get to playing Modo, who was, I believe that was the first, they were relegated down from, had played the season in SHL, right?
Yep, they were in SHL, so they took either last place or second to last in the SHL season.
Yeah, so then you had the playoffs, and this was the last. Was this? Let's see here. Was this game 7?
This was game 7. So
Game 7.
And leading up to that, we were, and I can't remember, I could be wrong. And of course, I'm sure a lot of people watching would be able to correct me, but I know we weren't in the top 2 of Allsvenskan. We barely made it into the playoff.
Yeah.
To play it off. And even I feel like our mindset was just like, let's just see what happens. Like, we didn't really have expectations. We were in last place not too long ago, and we just kept winning and winning, and we weren't blowing teams out. We were just like 1-goal games, and it's just, building that confidence up a little bit coming into playoffs.
So I don't know. I have this blurred background, so I don't know if it shows up or not. But if it doesn't, I have this book next to me that a friend of mine gave me, and it said "The Team That Never Died," and you're on the cover of it with the goal, and and on this YouTube clip, it's the summary here is game 7 for a place in the SHL between Modo and Leksand. Third period and overtime, the craziest game ever. Modo wins the shots 50-18. Modo has a 3-1 lead with 10 minutes to go and completely dominates, but Leksand wins. And then it's got, that's the clip. So, we can talk about, all those things. But it is a crazy, crazy season. I love the clips of, and I'd like to hear your opinion of, what was it like then when Perra, the head coach coming in, when you guys, they fired everybody and they bring this guy in who's completely different. How did that, what changed?
And this is a long time ago.
Yeah.
It's, from what I remember, he just simplified everything. Before, not that we didn't have a good coach before, and of course his name is leaving me right now.
I think it was Leffe Karlsson, right? No.
No.
It's okay.
He was from Norway. I can't remember, but
anyway, yeah.
Yeah, but he, good system, good. Practices were good, everything, but I just don't think it mixed well with our team. I just don't think we were the team for that. I remember me personally, he gave me every opportunity in the world. It was, anything I wanted. I feel like I could go to him and be like, no, I think this would work, or I think this. And I just couldn't find a good rhythm. And I feel like everybody felt that way, to where it was, we just couldn't get the ball rolling. And we had a good team. It was just like, I wasn't scoring. Our top 2 lines weren't scoring. Our D wasn't really stopping people. It was just, a perfect storm of stuff just not working. And Perra came in and he just treated us like we were, I don't know what you call it over there. What we call it a peewee team here, of like a U10 team, and just the simplest systems you can think of. You no more than 2 passes and it's in the zone, or guys, we're not going crazy. Practices almost got boring, to where it's just the simplest things. And it's not, he wasn't treating us like we weren't good. It was just, that's his system, and it just worked. And I feel like in that simplicity, it let us just play the way we wanted to, to where we didn't have to sit and think about going here, and this, and goals and assists and everything. It was just, his system was so simple, we just didn't have to think about anything else. It was, we knew what we were doing way out there, and it kind of calmed everybody down. And then the goals started coming.
Yeah.
And I know we had a few additions, like Torsberger came in, and he was a big addition to where, I mean, he was scoring goals. I mean, very offensive. I feel like it just kind of brought confidence up, and that's where, you're dead last. We have zero confidence in the world, and slowly just chipping away, you start winning a few games, and by playoff time, I feel like our confidence was pretty darn high. So,
who do you remember from that team the most? Because you were, let's frame it too, because you were only there for 1 year. You were in Sweden. That was your second year in Sweden, and we'll go to that in a second, kind of when we talk about how you got there. But your second year in Sweden, and you're still the American. But who do you remember?
As far like player wise or friend wise, or well, I guess I can do a little bit of both.
Yeah.
I mean, just the person I remember, I would say the two Finnish players, Tommy Pakulanvara and Franz Tuomia. And because we were the only, I guess, kind of the outsiders, we didn't speak Swedish. Everybody else did. And we kind of had our own little corner in the locker room to where we'd get there. Whatever was on the projector was Swedish, something that the guys were watching. They're all talking Swedish, and we just kind of have our own little corner, and we'd talk English to each other and do our own little thing. And we lived close to each other in Leksand Strand, our cabins.
Yeah.
So we spent a lot of time together. So just overall, those two, just because we kind of connected that way. Player, oh God, just as like a player on the team, I don't.
Because you have some there. I'm looking at elite prospects, so I'm cheating, right? And there's some.
I should be doing that right now.
No. This is perfect because it's now I can be like, I was a little bit surprised of like some of the guys that were at the top in scoring. Do you know who won the scoring title for that year?
I'm guessing Hari or, oh man, I'm gonna look like an idiot on this, not remembering everybody's names. The defenseman that he was our top defenseman. He went to to Mora after.
Yeah, Victor Amnier. Amnier.
Yes.
Who I think has since retired too. Yeah, he's no longer a player. But I didn't. So since I wasn't necessarily super involved, of course everybody got involved at this particular time. But I was like everybody else. They stink. They're terrible. And then everybody slowly got back on the train, and then everybody was crazy at the end. But yeah, you were third in scoring, 47 games, 33 points for that year. And there was
remember I had a good plus minus. I feel like that's what I was really focused on.
Well, it was -3.
Or maybe it was the year before I had a good plus minus.
Well, I mean, on the other hand, and it's really indicative because that was pretty good for that team. And that's kind of what you're talking about. It's not like you guys won a ton of games. You kind of slipped in at the end, and then you kind of kept going. And so, yeah, Victor Amnier was -4 for the year. And most of the team were in the minus for the year. So, there was a couple of Americans on there, Patrick White and Mike Embuck, but I guess that they were let go in the fall.
Yeah, they didn't last too long.
Yeah.
I think Embuck, how many games does it say he played? Did he get let go with
9? Yeah, 9 and 7 for Patrick White.
For our last place firing of everybody. Yeah. So, and I mean, they were included in the English speaking group with the Finnish guys, but yeah, I mean, obviously they didn't make it too far into the season, and we kept going. But to answer your question about like player wise, who I remember most, now that we're kind of getting into it, my memory's getting a little better. Knuts and Martin Carlson, I would say two that really stick out to me. They were both line mates of mine for a little bit, and well, Martin for a lot of it, Knuts for a little bit, but and they're still there, which doesn't surprise me because they're like two guys who just were like Lexans. Like, doesn't matter. They didn't care if they didn't score a point the whole year. It was like they just wanted to wear the jersey and do everything they could to help the team win. And it was guys like that that pushed us, past everything else. And that's what we needed.
So it's interesting. My mom actually worked in the kitchen at the school, and those two guys went through hockey gymnasium there, and my mom, that is her favorite. Jon Knuts is her favorite guy ever. Like, he was so respectful and was so mature and so interesting fact, since you're from Wisconsin, do you know what their nicknames were? Not necessarily their individual, but the two of them were called Bröderna Grävling, which means the Badger brothers.
Nice.
So Wisconsin Badgers, kind of the reference that I was, small world here, but
Yeah.
You're absolutely right. So you're not surprised now, 8 years later, that they're still playing and have the same exact mentality. And they are, I don't know how many games that Jon Knuts have played for Leksand, but
I think he just broke the record, didn't he, for most games played or something, or hit a big milestone. It doesn't surprise me one bit and I'm sure they're playing the exact same way at, 30 some years old. And good for them to have a career like that. It's, especially the way they do. You look at the skill players to where maybe they're not getting hit as much and taking the toll on their body, but guys like Jan and Martin to stick around, especially with one team in Sweden for that long, it just shows you what kind of character they have rather than their skill set.
Yeah, I think Knuts left for 2 seasons, but then came back, is what I understand. All right, the other person, Tobbe Forsberg.
Yeah.
What's your, kind of cut from the same rock, but not from Leksand.
Mm-hmm. And he came in later in the year with us. I think he was one brought in during all the firings. If it shows he has less games, like I said, my memory, we're really digging deep into what I remember and whatnot. But me and him weren't as close, I would say. Just kind of hung out with the different crowd. Well, I hung out with a very different, with just our English speaking crowd, but close wise, like off the ice and stuff, I wouldn't say I was as close to him. I don't think we were ever line mates. It's just kind of hard. And when you don't speak the same language, I didn't go up to him very much, or like just be able to jump in a conversation, and it's not rude on their part. It's their native language. I didn't expect them to sit and speak English for me, which is more than okay. But yeah, just one person on the team that I didn't connect with a ton. Obviously, I wish I did. I wish I connected with everybody, but yeah, it was different. So
yeah. And then what do you remember from a guy that's still playing and is on the national team, Oskar Lang? He must have been a junior then.
He was a junior. He was young. He was kind of in and out of the lineup like the whole maybe first half of the year, first 3 quarters of the year, and then he came in and was just lights out from I'd say 3 quarters of the season on. But very amazing skill. He was so young though back then. I want to say he was a young junior player.
Yeah.
I think he was 20.
He may have been a J18 player coming up, but small kid, right?
Yeah,
still small.
That's what I remember most about him, was just like, holy smokes, this kid's gonna get killed out there. But no, very, very good. And yeah, obviously, I wish I could see him as a 26, playing in his prime to see. I don't get to watch many Leksand games anymore. So
yeah. All right, and then last, Frögren, the Master General. What do you remember of him?
I think anybody who knows the post-game interview, at least mine, of course, I can't understand anybody else's. He's the reason why we were there. We were, especially against Modo, we were little kids compared to that team. And he just felt like, he was dad back there protecting all of us, and any scrum in front of the net, he had like guys around the neck, and it was, just an ultimate warrior. Anyone who wears a C on their jersey, he was the definition of it, really. So
yeah, no, that's and was that the last year he played? So that was 15, 16. Yeah, that was.
Oh yeah. So
Yeah.
we always kind of talk about it, every time on social media. Every now and then we'll shoot each other a message and just, pick up a small conversation. But yeah, kind of both of us last time on the ice together is a fun memory to have.
Yeah. So, and then I have to say, I have to mention kind of the footage is so classic of Ewan Knutz that ended up on Spit and Chicklets, I believe, when he was coming to the train station outside of Rättvik, and the fans were waiting for him, and he still got his skates on with a Heineken bottle and no shirt on out in the snow.
I don't think I remember that one.
Oh, you haven't seen that?
I don't think so. Is
I'll
this after the game?
So what happened was, so this is what, yeah, so everybody, the bus. Oh, okay. So that was played in Örnsköldsvik, right?
Yes.
So I don't know how this was, or maybe this was the second time when they went up that happened.
It might have been that.
Okay.
They honestly, it was such a whirlwind after the game. I couldn't even tell you. All I know,
Well,
there was a picture floating around of me and two of the guys in the shower with only our hands covering ourselves. So that's, yeah,
that was immortalized.
Between champagne and beers and that picture and crazy fans, trying to get in and yelling in the lot. It was mayhem in a good way.
Yeah. No,
But
that's
what surprised me if he ended up outside in the snow with his skates on and no shirt on. It was,
yeah. He's definitely, it's almost one of those, and missing a tooth, and it's almost like Wedding Crashers with that's kind of indicative. But anyway, so let's do this. We could talk for hours about Leksand moments and these type of things, and I appreciate kind of living those moments. But I wanted to kind of maybe a little bit on a serious note here, because I think it's a little bit, the people that are listening to this are not necessarily going to listen to this because of to this podcast. Normally listen to this because of information. It's informative and educational when it comes to Swedish juniors, and it's become a little bit more of, a lot of people from the US and a lot of people from Sweden listen, so we try to mix up the different stuff. But so it becomes kind of this also talk about the journey of hockey.
mm-hmm.
And so I want to go back, but before we go there, so I want to kind of end cap kind of Leksand with, that was your last professional game.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was last time I played a minute of competitive hockey was on that rink at Modo. So,
and the way, so your shot, I mean, you're laid out like completely horizontal with a flex in your stick, and you shoot in overtime. I mean, you talking about walk-off home run. What a better way to end the career. But you were 26.
yeah, it was, I mean, a perfect storm of factors that led into that. I don't think I made that shot, and I'm laying on the ice after, like, shoot, this is I'm done. Like, kind of that farewell tour moment where it's like, this is it.
Did you have thoughts about maybe retiring before this?
I honestly, I can't remember when me and my wife decided to go overseas and play. I was done playing college and a little stint in the AHL over here. My agent called and was just like, I have some interest in Sweden if you want to try overseas. We were really second guessing it. It's kind of, and nothing against Swedish hockey, but it's like a lot of times it's, if you're aspiring to the NHL over here, it's like, well, if we go overseas, like you're kind of giving up on that NHL dream, unless you pull a, like a Brock Little and you go and you score 80 points and then you get that interest back.
Yeah.
But we said, if we're doing it, we're going for 2 years, no matter what. If we show up and we just, we don't like it after half the first season, like I'm not going to be that player that shows up and is like, I want to go home.
Yeah.
So we said, no matter what, we're sticking it out for 2 years. Whether it's with the same team, two teams, we're giving it a fair shot. And after 2 years, if, we enjoy it, the money's good, we want to start a family over there, let's do it. If not, we had some fun and let's move back home and figure something out. So that 2 years was up. And of course, there's a lot of stuff that happened between negotiations with coming back to Lexand. There was some talk of going to Switzerland. That's kind of a place we always dreamed of going. And a few other things, but honestly, I would say my biggest factor would be after every season, I would take 1 month off. 1 month of I wouldn't think of hockey, I wouldn't watch it, I wouldn't work out, I wouldn't put my skates on, like I wouldn't do anything hockey or working out. It was just a complete mental recharge. And after that month, I think I waited even over a month, like 6 weeks, and I started my workouts again. And usually by that time, I'm like itching to get back to my workouts, get back on the ice, start the training again. And went to my first workout, did a skate, everything was good. And I went to my second workout the next day, and halfway through the workout, I think I looked at my trainer and I was just like, I think I'm done. I think I just don't have that fire anymore, really. So,
Yeah.
Which is okay, because I was the player who put, every single second of my life into hockey, whether it's eating, sleeping, training, playing. My life revolved around it. It was, some people it might be a 10-hour-a-day job. For me, it was 24 hours a day, to where if I didn't sleep right or have enough hours, like I would be, worried about it and making sure that I was like the best player I could be. And that might contribute to me being burnt out by the time I was 26 instead of the guys who can play until 40. But I had fun when I was doing it, and it was time to move on and move back home and start a family and do all that stuff.
Yeah. So, did your wife go with you when you went?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
She was over there with me the full time, both times. So, yeah, and it was good. And that was an adventure we wanted to go on together, to where I feel hockey in the U.S., especially pro hockey, is very business.
Yes.
We went to the AHL. The team moved me into a hotel with another player. It was like, if anybody wants to come, they need to get their own stuff. Like, you're on contract, you're ours. You're on a bus for 3-4 days out of it. Like, it was a business job. And after a few months of that, I was like, I don't even know if the NHL is really worth it doing this for, if I do this for 3-4 years and try and grind it out and do it, I don't know. I hear Sweden, European hockey is very, friendly and more of a team atmosphere.
Yeah.
So that kind of, led to my reason of us heading over too, and her coming with and making it, a trip and a memory and something fun to do, but also where I could be as serious as I wanted to be, but still have a good home life as well.
Well, what a memory you gave. I mean, for everybody else. Well, let's take you back a little bit, because I do think, let's get to this part, because looking at elite prospects, born and raised in Wisconsin, and so I pulled up, so Somerset High is on here in elite prospects, 0506. Guess how many players on that roster according to elite prospects?
Oh, I don't trust elite. I know how many would be on the roster, but some kids who went on playing past Somerset High School on that roster, would there be 3 other than me?
Well, so what's interesting is when you click on that, there's only one name, and it's you.
Oh, that makes sense.
And so it could have been, back then they didn't have as much of a database, and if it was specifically high school hockey, but now high school hockey in Wisconsin is growing, and it's becoming more of a, I can't remember, I was listening to a podcast, I think it was a Spit and Checklist podcast, on one of the high draft picks that is playing in the NHL now, that grew up playing high school in Wisconsin and stayed.
And we get, I shouldn't say it's not a hockey state compared to Minnesota. It's nothing.
Well, nothing is, but
yeah, no kidding. Every now and then, though, you get a hidden gem coming out of Wisconsin that tears it up. The University of Wisconsin, the Badgers hockey team, they're always very good. I think they had a bad stretch for like 10 years in there recently. But I think for a while they were #1 in the nation and had a very good program this year. But yeah, we get every now and then there's like a crazy high draft pick that's coming out of Wisconsin that, didn't play on the big traveling teams and didn't do all the stuff like these Minnesota kids are doing where they live on their skates from the moment they're 5 years old. But
But
yeah,
you ended up at Shattuck St. Mary's, which is arguably, and I would imagine back then was a top team
yeah,
as well.
yep, yeah. I played with Derek Stepan, who he was assistant captain with the Rangers for a bit.
Played in Carolina.
Yep, Carolina. Like Jonathan Tave's little brother, David. And he was amazing growing up. I mean, when we were in high school, he was, supposed to be the next Jonathan. And, we'd always don't pan out like people say we should. And I'm one of those people as well. But yeah, very good program. Ben Youds, he played for Lexand. He was on my team at Shattuck.
Oh yeah, that's right. I did remember that name.
Trying to think other big name players in there. We had a lot of college guys play D1 college, good program, but no NHL grade. So I think Derek Stepan was our big name guy. But yeah,
So
getting there. Oh, sorry.
yeah, no, I do have a name that isn't necessarily a big name in the US, but I consider him a good friend and I wanted to get your opinion. Ben Hughes.
Ben Hughes, yeah, in Waterloo. No, Ben Hughes.
Yeah, well, he's also on Shattuck. And Ben went on to play at Liberty University,
Okay.
CHA, and has been, so he was a captain. Just give a little story on Ben. Just an incredible young man that so he's from Florida, but anyway, he stayed after he played at Liberty. He was a captain of the ACHA D1 team. I think they won national championship with D1 ACHA.
Yep.
And have stayed, and that's his mission field, and kind of has been part of coaching their D2 team and runs a lot of runs the summer camps for them. And it's such a small world. Hockey's such a small world. I talked to him this week, and because my son he's been going up to Liberty camps for the last 5-6 years, and Ben has become a really good mentor for my son. He's 19 and is in juniors, but so I saw that he was on this team, and I didn't know that he played at Shattuck. But small world.
Yeah, very small world. I think he was younger. If it shows he's on the roster, I know the Shattuck rosters get kind of messed up on elite prospects.
Yeah,
was on like the U16 team,
and maybe he was up playing. It does say 33 games versus your 63. So
in that case, because I don't remember him at all on that team, and they don't jump back and forth at Shattuck. Like if you're on the U16 team, you don't go up and play with the prep sometimes, but elite prospects, I think, mixes it up and it'll say like he played 33, but that might be stats from the U16 team, or if he was on like the U18 team and not the prep team. Because there's 3 U18 teams there. There's the prep team, then the varsity team, which plays like Minnesota high school teams.
Yeah.
And I think the JV team, which they play a lot of Minnesota JV teams, or they play Somerset High School. Actually, I played Shattuck JV team when I was a freshman in high school. So
nice. All right, but let's and so you play there. So was that did you get recruited there, or I mean that's a top place to go to, and then it's a trajectory that is pretty dang impressive. I mean, Shattuck to USHL for 3 years, and you were tearing it up in USHL, and then 4 years of D1, and then the AHL. So I mean, very, very impressive. Yeah, let's say you're not you're 5'11", 194, you're not 6'4", right? So otherwise you probably would have been in the NHL.
Yeah, probably would have been making a lot of money if I was 6'4". That would have been nice. But Getting recruited there, yes, but I'll take it back a few steps before that. Kind of like touching on the Jonathan Taves younger brother type thing, and not everybody pans out. And I was 12-ish when kind of major juniors, and if this is a junior podcast, we'll kind of touch on that. Major juniors in Canada, they really start recruiting at 12 years old.
Crazy.
And with my Minnesota summer traveling team, we would always go up. We'd play in Winnipeg, Saskatchewan, Toronto, Regina, like all these big tournaments in Canada. And it comes out not Central Scouting. It was a big scouting website for peewees and bantams in Canada, and I was ranked number 1. Like all of a sudden, like our house phone is ringing off the hook with major junior teams calling my parents, like, we are going to take your son in the draft, and we're just like, we don't even know what major juniors is. And it was all WHL teams. And the funny thing, in the US, I live just on the right side of the Mississippi River by 15 minutes. To play in the WHL, you have to be on the west side of the river. So we have to tell all these teams, well, even if you wanted to, you can't draft them because we don't even live there. And they're begging me to, go buy an apartment over there.
Yep,
And
yep.
like, they'll pay for the apartment, whatever.
Unofficially.
Yeah. And at that time, I was a 12-year-old kid, and we didn't even know what major junior was. We're like, no, I think we'll go to college if that's the thing. And yeah, but it was funny because I still have the paper at my parents' house. My mom saved it. It's my name, number 1, number 2, and it's flip-flop, reverse order maybe, but number 2, Steven Stamkos, number 3, Jonathan Tavares. And I look at that now and I'm just like, oh man, what the heck happened to me compared to those two? But I mean, back then I was 12 years old and I was the same size I am now. I'm 5'10", 12-year-old, probably 170 pounds. And I was playing defense at the time because I was so big. It was like, why wouldn't you play defense? And first year playing Pee-wee, checking in the US, and I would just like destroy kids out there. And all these WHL teams just wanted me to be a big fighter. I'd go up to Canada. I think I fought Kyle Beach. He was a big fighter. And I mean, from what I remember, I kicked his butt. And like from that moment on, it was like teams calling nonstop and wanted me to come be a fighter, everything. And long story short, little did they know I didn't grow an inch since then. And I was a small guy playing in Sweden, 13 years later. So
yeah. But okay, but so that explains then. So you were on a lot of people's radar for a long time, and that kind of paved the way of getting into USHL.
Yep, and well, I guess I got sidetracked with that.
Yeah, no problem.
I was a year behind in school. Long story short, my parents held me back a year when in like kindergarten because they wanted me to be an older kid in the grade rather than one of the younger ones. And to go to the national development program here, to where everyone's like, you're a shoo-in, you're going to make it. You're, the number 1 prospect as a 12-year-old, just 2 more years, you'll be at the national program. So come 8th grade, I skipped 8th grade, went from 7th grade right into freshman year of high school. Went into high school, had 2 very good seasons into the development program tryout, and I bombed the tryout. I mean, I did terrible. And it was hard because Wisconsin high school hockey, we would end of February is our last game. And there's like no teams to play on come the end of the high school season. And the tryout wasn't until I think beginning of May. So I had like a 3-month window of like, I didn't have anything to do. I would go up to the rink by myself and skate and try and do it. By the time May came around, I was so out of shape and had a terrible tryout, and I didn't make the team. And it was like the biggest letdown of my life. Like for so long, I was like going to play for Team USA. This was like, everything was going up. And that was probably the first time in my hockey career where it was like a setback. Which, I mean, poor me, right? But from there, it was after that sophomore year of my high school, I led the state in scoring. If you have the league prospects pulled up,
Yeah.
I was committed to the University of Wisconsin at the time,
Uh,
and and I was a big football player. Loved playing American football. So it's like, you're leading the state in scoring, you need to go do something different. And by the way, if you want to commit to Wisconsin, you can't play football anymore. So I was like, okay, well, I guess what's the next step? I just bombed my Team USA tryout. And then a few of my friends were going to Shattuck that I played summer hockey with. And yeah, they came calling from there. So that's
and
how.
not a bad place to go. I mean, that is a awesome place, and you will forever have been part of Shattuck.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was, I mean, a good place to go. Rivals the development program as far as players who are there. We had few European kids, few Canadian kids, and we actually tried. I remember talking with, kind of the athletic director who runs Shattuck Hockey Everything. We tried to get games against the development program, and they wouldn't take it with us because we had a really good team. We won nationals when I was there, and yeah, they won't take it, which I don't blame them, because if they lose to Shattuck, that looks very bad for the national program. But had a great year there. The hockey was amazing. The training, you go there and you're a hockey player number one, you're a student second. But on the flip side of that, the teachers don't think you're a student second. And I would have 3-4 hours of homework every single night.
Wow.
And coming from a little Wisconsin public school to that I wasn't ready for that. My grades really suffered. I know Wisconsin wasn't very excited with what my grades were coming out of Shattuck, and kind of had to make the decision, do I risk coming back and having a rough year school wise, or try at the USHL? And Wisconsin was kind of pushing me to go to the USHL. I loved Shattuck, but the USHL also sounded fun. Playing junior hockey, everything. So decided to take off from there after 1 year, my junior year, and go my senior year to Waterloo in the USHL.
But that's got to be a little bit of now you're getting into big boy hockey. Mm-hmm. Or was it, or what was it? That is the top. Of course, you played top U18 league in the country, but playing juniors is different.
Very different. Shattuck, you're playing against the top U18 teams in the US and Canada.
You go to tournaments, right? It's more tournaments.
It's much like youth hockey.
Yeah.
But you're playing against the top. You go to nationals. We won nationals. I'm playing against with some of the best 18-year-old players in the world, really. We go to Europe. I think we spent 2 weeks in Italy and Switzerland playing some junior teams or U18 teams over here or over there. But yeah, junior hockey was a whole different ballgame. I remember my first shift of the regular season. So, as a hockey player, preseason is just a taste of what you're going to get. The vets don't really take it seriously. Like it's more of a tryout. My first game of a real regular season, I lined up and it was against Brandon Bolig. If you remember that name, he played for the Blackhawks. Huge fighter in the NHL for probably a good 3 years. And, played the old trick of, I'm the young guy, how you doing? Like buttering me up. And I think, oh yeah, he's a nice guy. Right when the ref drops the puck, he just gives me the biggest 2-hand cross check across my arm. And my first shift in the USHL, I spent like hunched over, like skating my bench because I thought I broke my arm. And I sit down and my coach is just screaming in my ear, like, what are you doing? Like, you're supposed to be like our young stud, whatever. And I'm just like, oh man, this is a whole different world. And there's probably a fight like 2 shifts later. And it was a wake up call.
Yeah. Welcome to the league.
Yeah.
But still, you survived 3 years, same team, Waterloo Blackhawks, good team. And you had success. Okay, first year, 55 games, 30 points. But then next year, 59 games, 43 points. And then your last year, was that your last year of eligibility too? Or
I could have played one. Oh, yeah, because I was 20. You can turn 21 as long as it's after a certain date.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I could have went back, but if you're in the USHL for 4 years, then there's a problem. So
Yeah, yeah. And I mean, let's face it, you had 55 games, 69 points, you did fine.
yeah, and
Uh,
honestly, 3 years in the USHL is usually too long. There's a lot of chirps thrown around that you're the third year guy and all that.
yeah.
But yeah, and in there I had a decommitment. Like I said before, I was committed to Wisconsin. Long story short, they overcommitted the year I was supposed to go, and I decided to decommit because they had, I think, 9 freshmen going in and 1 senior leaving, and just wasn't a good situation to be in at the time. And Dean Blaze was leaving the NHL to come start up Omaha, not start up, but kind of turn around Omaha's program. And he got a lot of good players from USHL to commit to Omaha. So I joined that bandwagon and decided to go there and help him out.
Yeah. And then 4 years. So how was that then? I mean, the difference. Now you played big boy hockey in the USHL. What was the transition like to go to NCAA? Because that's kind of where everybody wanted to go, right?
Yeah, and I think back then it was kind of, I mean, you look at hockey now, especially in the US, it's very skilled. I feel like hockey in the US right now is how Sweden was 10, 15 years ago, to where the hitting game was kind of starting to phase out and much more just, pure offense. So USHL was kind of the offense. I mean, there was still hitting, fighting, of course, but bigger focus on just pure offense. Like go out there, score goals, and score more goals than the other team, and not as serious on defense. A lot of skilled defensemen rather than the big stay-at-home D. And college was good old-fashioned North American hockey. You get the puck over the red line, you dump it in, and you're a bowling ball out there. I mean, everyone has cages on or full masks, so you're elbowing everybody in the head, and it's just a full-on fight without being able to take your gloves and helmet off, really. And then again, you're jumping up again. You're going from a U20 league to a U25 league, and some of those guys were just, built. I mean, you're 230 pounds, just bricks out there. So yeah, that was another big adjustment going from that and kind of adjusting your game to where, you're not going to dipsy doodle around out there around people. It's, you pass the puck and you keep your head up or you're going to get it taken off here pretty soon.
Yeah. But you did, 4 years. So did you get a degree?
I did.
Okay.
Honestly, I couldn't even tell you what it's in. I wanted to go for something business. I love business. I've always been kind of a business mind, but the way our coach set up our practices and everything and the way our school schedule worked, I wouldn't have been able to get a business degree in my 4 years I was there. So I think I have something in communications that my advisor said I could get. And so I said, yeah, sign me up. That works. And me being a 19-year-old kid at the time, or 20, 21 when I was deciding, college degree, didn't really care. My mind was the NHL. So the easiest way to get there was the way to go.
Well, I want to wrap up your NCAA by asking, so was this your last year with Omaha? There's this guy on here. I don't know if anybody's ever heard of him. Jake Gensel, somebody?
Yeah. He was my line mate my senior year. And to be honest, probably 3/4 of my points my senior year were mainly because of him. I mean, and he was a freshman, so
okay. I didn't know if he was. So was he as good? Was he good back then?
Yeah, and I mean, I've played with a lot of players in my day, and there's a few where I can say, and I say it with the most respect ever, and honestly, he would probably agree, and the other person I'm talking about would probably agree, Derek Stepan. They're not fast. They don't have a hard shot. They don't have the fastest hands, but for some reason, when they get on the ice, they know exactly what they're doing and it works. It was the weirdest thing to where, I mean, you look at him now, he's kind of, a smaller guy, scrawny. Think of him when he's 19 years old, 18 years old, and he comes in and all we hear about is Jake Gensel's coming. Like he just tore it up in the USHL and Minnesota high school hockey. He walks in the locker room and I remember like, this is the kid that everyone's talking about. But I mean, so many times where I would be just, standing on the back door or whatever. And, you're, as a hockey player, you're like, well, no way he's going to get me the puck right now. And you're trying to figure it out. And all of a sudden it just comes zipping over to you and you just have a nice tap in goal. Like at least, I don't even know how many goals I had that year, 15, 16, 12. It's probably at least 8 of them were just like easy tap in goal. That is just like, nice pass, Jake. Like, thanks.
Well, it's, Sidney Crosby, I think so much of it is, okay, he did well playing with Sid, but it says a lot when it wasn't very public and but Sid Crosby was very upset when they traded him to Carolina. And, being a Carolina fan, living in North Carolina, that was a huge get.
Yeah.
And he came in and hasn't missed a lick with Carolina, and I think we all down here knows we got a really, really special player.
Yeah. I remember texting him after that. That's why he went to obviously Pittsburgh, got on Crosby's line, and then you notice he's always on Crosby's line.
Yes.
Even when they're losing, he's still on Crosby's line. I'm just like, man, you hit the jackpot if Crosby is pulling for you to stick around. I mean, I look at it like nothing against Jake. I looked at it like even before Jake, it was Pascal Dupuis was Crosby's guy. Pascal Dupuis signed like 1 year, $2 million contracts like every year. And Crosby's going in. It's like, give him another one. Give him another one. Like, yeah, you keep feeding him and you'll do just fine. But I feel like in Carolina, though, he's more of not Crosby, but he's the guy. He's out of Crosby's shadow and he can start building his own legacy instead of sitting there.
Well, they've got so many. They don't have a Crosby. They got Sebastian Aho and they got Svechnikov, and they got so many Gensels. I mean, they basically got a team of Jake Gensels that are all filling in this system, and that's going to be interesting to see what they do, because I think he's just a rental for the year. I'm not sure. It may not be.
I think he's a free agent after this year.
Yeah.
Or didn't renew his contract or whatnot. So yeah, I guess we'll see what happens after. But yeah, I think he fits in right with those guys to where, like I said, on Pittsburgh, I feel like it's still the Letang, Crosby, Malkin, and everybody else is down here.
Yep.
Or even if, he is leading the team, you're still like under those guys, where Carolina's a place he can go and he can be that guy with Aho and all those guys. So yeah, it's exciting for him.
Yeah. Well, let's round out this conversation because I want to talk about this, and I want to, for those, I just think it's an awesome thing about, the kind of stages of your career and how hockey prepares you. And I think it'd be good for young people to be able to say, there is a life after hockey.
Absolutely. 100%. And it's a learning curve. It was an adjustment period. Of course, I had a great 2 years in Sweden. We touched on Leksand a lot. Västerås was in there, which was a very big transition.
I was actually born in Västerås.
Perfect. Well, we have more in common than we thought.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, but moving back home, it was scary. I was not smart, not getting a degree that I could actually go do something with. I think it's continuing studies now that I'm thinking about it, to where you can't go get a continuing studies degree. I don't even know what it means. But I was fortunate to where I came back. I told you I was always into business. My family's always been in business. I bought into and took over a restaurant that my family ran. And long story short, it would be February of my year in Leksand. So February of 2016, our family restaurant burned down. So like I remember I was Zoom calling with my family, and all of a sudden I was like talking to my mom and dad, and all of a sudden my dad just like answers his phone and goes like running out the door. And I'm just like what happened? And he got a call that like his restaurant was on fire, and had to like drive into the town. They live out in the country, and yeah, very devastating.
Wow.
For them. And luckily that wasn't their only business. They also owned a campground and a few other things. But yeah, moving back home, or coming back home then after the Lexian season, I was kind of thrown right into this restaurant that was burned down. We were trying to rebuild it and come up with more business ideas. And yeah, then after the whole deciding to retire, stay home, me and my wife got thrown into this restaurant, reopening it, redoing the whole thing, coming up with menus, all of that. So I was lucky to where I got thrown from one thing, hockey, which I did 100%, right into business. And I found a love for the business world, to where I feel like hockey really prepared me for that. You know, building a team, I mean, the goal is to make money, obviously in a business. So like building a team to get that goal. I think it really prepared me, and it took over that competitive edge that every athlete needs. We play hockey because we love to compete. We love to do, that. We've been doing it our whole lives for the most of us. But I couldn't imagine coming home and not being able to fill that void of like, what's next? How can I, this competing desire inside of me? So sorry.
I want to ask about your wife, because your wife went with you on the journey, and now you're a business partner with your wife in this journey.
Yeah, she went with, and she's a hard worker as well. Honestly, I feel like my time over there, her job was harder than mine. I got sent to Sweden. We both did, but I got built-in friends. I got a built-in job. I got everything. My life was easy. I mean, I'd work out, I'd do what I do all the time. And she got thrown into this world that it was a whole different world than what we were used to. I mean, she's in a place where we don't speak the language. She doesn't know any of the people. She doesn't get built-in friends and teammates like I do. Yeah, it was, I won't say it was a long 2 years for her, but it was a much bigger adjustment for her. The first year, she was going to teach English at a school and in Westeros. And right before we got there, they called and said, well, if we want the job, that we'd have to stay through the school, like the end of the school year at the end of June. But we knew the season ended in beginning April, so we turned that down. But yeah, so I guess took 2 years off. We were starting a hockey camp that we were building up. So she built the whole website for the hockey camp. She was kind of building the business from the inside out while we were there. So
was she a hockey? Did she play?
She did not. She was a basketball player, ran track, cross country in high school, but loves sports. She did. She has her degree in sports journalism. So before I met her, she had a fast track to go to ESPN and get their fast track training to get on camera and do the whole Sports Center, all that stuff. So sometimes I tell her, man, you really picked the wrong course here, and you could have been on Sports Center and done the whole ESPN and everything. But no, we're happy, we're good.
So let's talk a little bit about, so I've got, you go from elite prospects on here and lapointeevents.com. So if she's the person that does your website, she's fantastic.
I wish I could say she did.
That thing is impressive.
She did our old hockey camp one, and she won't blame me for saying it. We're not graphic designers. We're not, computer engineers. We don't know how to do that stuff. It was good for a hockey camp website. We just did like little kids like 8 to 12-year-old a hockey.
Yeah. But it's for those who go, so if you go to La Pointe, and La Pointe with an E, lapointeevents.com, and I've got this open, and if you click on the about, there's the wedding venue. So did you guys build that? There's a wedding venue, and then there's Sam's, the restaurant. So that's the business that you run, right?
So yeah, so when we took over the restaurant, we learned quickly that we weren't fans of running a bar and restaurant. You know, it's early mornings, late nights. We were
Yep.
starting a family. I was getting home at 3, 4 in the morning after closing a bar down, and not healthy for a family, not healthy for a couple, newly married, anything. So we came up with a 5-ish year plan, a year or two after running that restaurant, to phase out the restaurant and turn it into a wedding venue, because it's a beautiful open space. It's perfect for a wedding venue. And then COVID hit, so restaurants got shut down completely. We could do takeout, which, I mean, takeout food paid for my cooks, and maybe I was running a delivery car and my wife was on the phone, is like
Wow.
that's all it could really pay for. But weddings were still open.
People are still getting married, and
yes, and that weddings were essential, and we were lucky to be in Wisconsin at the time. Our own government opened us up 2-3 months after the big shutdown over here, which was March of 2020. Minnesota stayed completely closed for like the whole year. So our wedding business was slowly open. We'd close every now and then on a Saturday for a wedding, and maybe we had 3 of them that summer. And once COVID came around, or we had 3 of them the summer before, but once COVID really started coming around, our business went from 3 weddings that year to about 30. And we realized, like, this is a much more lucrative business than running a restaurant. Much less time, more money. Like, we're just happier doing it. So our 5-year plan of phasing out that restaurant turned into a 1.5-year plan. And yeah, we closed that restaurant fully in April of 21. So we ran it for another year along with our weddings. And then while COVID was going on, we drew up plans of a whole new wedding venue. So on our property, we have about 40 acres. We have 2 wedding venues in there, and 1 commercial kitchen that serves both venues.
nice. So, and is that where you live too?
We live about a mile down the road. So
Okay.
yeah, so a very small town. Yeah, we have some land down the road from it, and we're close by. So easy drive to work. So I think I have about a 20-30 second drive to work every day.
And now you also have more Montpetits.
Yes. Yeah, 2 of them. I think a while ago I shared my little girl, like one of her newborn photos was in my Lexan jersey, or she was like wrapped up in my Lexan jersey, Amelie. So yeah, she's 7 now.
Wow.
Yep, and we had her shortly after, 2017, the year after we moved home.
Not born in Sweden.
Nope. No, we were kind of hoping if we went back, she would have been. And that was the plan. That was part of the big talk of, do we want to go back? Do we want to have kids over there? Like, all those questions were coming up, and that wasn't a determining factor. We're like, no, we have to have kids in the U.S. Having them in Sweden would have been a very fun experience and everything. So, but yeah, and then Leo, my boy, he's 5, and he just started playing hockey this last winter.
Wow. It's such a, I just think that, thank you for sharing kind of your journey and this part about being, a lot of people look at it and say, oh, you could have done more, and you were only 26, but that means you started the next chapter faster than some. And, we're all on this journey, and it takes us lefts and rights, and it prepares you for life. And I think sports is so integral in who we are and what we do. And I'm happy that you have enjoyed that part to be able to take you to what you're in now. And being a parent is a little bit, mine are a little bit older than yours, but you know, I wouldn't trade anything for the world. So two more things. One is we always ask our guests, if you met yourself at 17, so let's say you are how old now?
34. Just turned 34 last week.
All right, 34. You met yourself at 17. What advice would you give yourself? Things you know now that you didn't know now and that you didn't know back then?
Man, now you're asking the hard-hitting questions. Since it's a hockey podcast, I guess I'll answer it in two parts. For a hockey player, hockey Brock at 17 would be don't be too full of yourself. You're not the best. You're not, I mean, always be the hardest worker in the room. There's always somebody that will be better than you or working harder than you and everything. And you might be having fun. What you're doing might be easy. The players you're playing against, but you're never good enough in any sense. As far as life goes, person today, I would say almost the same thing. Just always be a hard worker. It's wake up in the morning, you get your job done. I think one of the best advice I got was from one of my assistant coaches in Omaha in college. Would be, doesn't matter where you are in life, get your work done. Like wake up in the morning, get your work done, and then you can enjoy whatever you need to enjoy. And I tell almost every kid this, even if you're elementary school age up through high school, like just because you're a kid doesn't mean you're get to go do whatever you want. Like you can do whatever you want, but at least get your work done. Because you know, wake up. If you're an athlete, wake up and work your butt off, get your workout done, and then you can go play. And you want to go to the lake, go to the lake. Then you want to go hang out with friends, but get your job done first and then go have some fun. Don't put it off, because that will catch up to you. Or the guy in the next town that's your age, he's getting his work done and you're going to be sorry 2 years from now.
Yeah. Well, last thing, we have a partnership with Target Aid. TargetAid.com is a fundraising organization that helps organizations in Sweden with fundraising, and we have a platform where we're on their site, and every guest gets to pick, and we can provide some content for organizations with that, but you can pick what's called the team in my heart.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, when we've had Swedish people on, they've normally had the team of their heart. You know, I grew up playing in this youth organization, and that's the jersey I have on the wall. You've been all over the place and you've played for a lot of different teams, but if you were to say, this is the team in my heart, what would be the answer from Brock Montpetit?
That's a very good question. All of them hold a special place for very different reasons. The place that hold, I guess for me, would probably be Leksand, honestly. It's the team that stuck with me the longest. Obviously, I'm home, so if I could pick two, it would be Somerset, my local team, or Leksand. But I mean, just the fans of Leksand, how passionate they are. And like I can't remember if we were recording it or not, but just the people that still reach out, like April 1st, every year comes around, people still reach out. And it's 8 years ago, which is crazy. You know, the love that they have is so overwhelming to where, yeah, it's incredible every year. And like we watch a video, I started tearing up, and just how much it means. Yeah, it's crazy. Or the one video that I share all the time with if somebody who doesn't understand how passionate Swedish hockey fans are, and I can't talk for all Swedish teams because I wasn't there for very long, but at least Leksand fans, I wish we could pull it up. I should have had you before we recorded, but it's after we scored the goal, it's the bar at Tejera Arena, and the announcer or the journalist is trying to interview one of the guys right after we scored, and he is so overwhelmed with emotion he can't even talk, and all he's doing is laughing and crying, and it's probably the coolest video, and I cry every single time I watch it, because it's just like the emotion from those fans is absolutely like incredible to me.
Yeah, I think it's the interview with Perra, the coach, and he's just kind of pulling his hair, and then Sigge is right there, and
no, it's not that one.
It's not that one. I need to look at it then. I'll attach it here at the end. I'll find it, and if you find it, DM it to me, and I'll attach it here at the end, and we'll make that be the outro. The other, and I just want to thank you so much for we'll make sure that gets on Target Aid, and I want to thank you for coming on. A little secret that not a lot of people know, that the outro of this podcast, for those who know Leksand, there's a little trumpet sound and there's a crowd noise, and it was actually taken from when Leksand won and made it up in the SHL. And then it's got the little, and that is from, for those who go, when I was a kid, going to the games, when the game is over, that's the little trumpet sound that is on the speakers for everybody, and it's ingrained in you. So when you listen to this podcast, listen to the entire outro, and you'll hear the crowd is actually the crowd noise from Leksand, and I think it's the Carolina Hurricanes horn clipped with I see it here. You DM'd it, so I'm gonna find it. It is clipped together with Leksand's outro. So let's do this. I'm gonna share the screen again.
I did send you on LinkedIn the video. It's funny, it popped up right away because I just showed it to somebody probably a few months ago.
Let's do this. I'm gonna share the screen, and then we'll watch it together and make that the.
I think I laugh and cry every time I watch it. So it's just amazing video.
Oh yeah.
We can't. I can't.
Leksand är tillbaka i SHL. Efter en av de mest osannolika ishockeymatcher som har utspelat sig det här århundradet. Och jubel här i Leksand känner inga gränser. Det här är alltså en stor skara åhörare och följt matchen på hemmaplan, kan man säga.
Oh, I'm getting kind of emotional here. Awesome. I should have had my Leksand jersey on when I had this. I didn't think about it. I went downstairs to get the book, and that was it. Brock, it's been a joy. Thanks for sharing your time, and awesome memory 8 years ago. We started with it, and we ended with it, and so fitting. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. No, it's so fun going back and reliving it. Especially me over here. There's not many people where I can sit down and go over, fun Leksand memories and the games and stuff, where, yeah, I guess I haven't really thought of it that way. I don't get to relive it other than if I watch a video. Me and my wife watched pretty much the whole last game against Modo a few months ago and just relived it that way. But yeah, no, I appreciate it. It was so fun to go over it with you, and yeah.
Well, and if you're in Somerset, right outside of Minneapolis, then look up Brock and the La Pointe venue there. I'm sure that you can get a tour and get a picture taken with Brock in your Leksand jersey at some point.
Absolutely, yeah. They wouldn't be the first ones. We've had a few people stop by and get a little tour and stop at, back when the restaurant was open, they'd come in and I'd buy them lunch or dinner, and we'd have fun and talk some Leksand. But yeah, it'd be great to see anybody who wants to come.
Awesome. Thanks so much.